Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad, Paramahansa, Bhagavad-gita, Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai, ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Jai Mr. Pad, Paramahansa, Bhagavad-gita, Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnavini ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktabinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So we're on text 9, page 264. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 26th day of August, 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 6 entitled Dhyana Yoga, and we're on text number 9 at the bottom of page 264. Surin Mitra Judasina Madhyasta Dvesha Bandhushu Sadhu Shapita Papeshu Samabuddhi Vishishyate Surin Mitra Yudasina Madhyasta Dvesha Bandhushu Sadhu Shapita Papeshu Samabuddhi Vishishyate. You got the page, Parashakti? Surin Mitra Yudasina Madhyastha Dvesha Bandhushu Sadhu Shapita Papeshu Samabuddhi Vishishyate. Surin Mitra Yudasina Madhyasta Dvesha Bandhushu Sadhu Shapita Papeshu Samabuddhi vishishyate. Parashakti. Sudan mitra yudasina. Madhyasta dvesha bandhushu. Sadhushabhita papeshu. Samabuddhi vishishyate. Word by words. Suhrit, to well-wishers by nature. Mitra, benefactors with affection. Ari, enemies. Udasina, neutrals between belligerents. Madhyastha, mediators between belligerents. Dvesha, the envious. Bandhushu, and the relatives or well-wishers. Sadhushu, unto the pious. Api, as well as. Cha, and papeshu, unto the sinners. Samabuddhi, having equal intelligence. Vishishyate is far advanced. Translation. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. Though no purport, so we'll go on. Text 10. Yogi yunjita satatam Atmanam rahasi stitaha Ekaki yata chittatma Nirashir aparigraha. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Purport. Krishna is realized in different degrees as Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna consciousness means, concisely, to be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman, or the localized Supersoul, are also partially Krishna conscious, because the impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna, and the Supersoul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus the impersonalist and the mediator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman and Paramatma. His knowledge of the absolute truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Nevertheless, all of these are instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in their particular pursuits so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. The first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him, even for a moment. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi, or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization. And, in perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. All these perfections and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness, because direct Krishna consciousness means self-abnegation, wherein there is very little chance for material possessiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami characterizes Krishna consciousness in this way. Anasaktasya vishayan yataham upayunjataha nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastunaha mumukshabi parityago vairagyam phalgukatyate. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu 1, 2, 255, 256. A Krishna-conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he is always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental, and he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. Page 266. Om Jnanatimorandasya Jnanandana Salakya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Actually, beginning with text 9 and 264, if you're interested. Okay, so the first verse describes this condition of samabuddhir, or equipoise, having equal intelligence regarding things which we would normally differentiate, this is good, this is bad, on an equal level. Now the previous verse, text 8, describes also the word sama is there. You see in the second line? Samalostrashma kanchana. So it's the same idea. He's describing, first of all, how the yogi makes his mind his friend. Note in text 5 and 6 we had those two wonderful verses, how one should uplift oneself by the mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the best friend of the living entity, and also the worst enemy. So then in text 6, well, who is the friend? How can the mind be made the friend, and what's the mind enemy? For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind will remain the greatest enemy. So then in the text 7, he describes the characteristics of one who has actually conquered the mind. Jitatmanaha, one who has conquered the mind. So the first thing is peaceful, prashantasya, tranquility of such control over the mind. So you can watch in the Sanskrit, when you have the prefix pra, it means intensely or extremely. So shanta means peaceful, prashanta means very peaceful, tranquil. Paramatma samahita, so it's an amazing statement, is that one has already reached the super soul, which indicates that it's only because of our agitated mind that we're not perceiving the super soul all the time. It's just like Lord Chaitanya says in the beginning of the Shikshastika, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, that by polishing the mirror of the mind, or making it peaceful, and just like you have a big pool and there's mud at the bottom. So if there's all turbulence in the pool, then it's going to be muddy. But when everything calms down and the dirt sinks to the bottom, then you can see clearly in the water. So the mind, we're always agitated. We don't recognize it because this is our normal state. But the mind's going here or there, remembering this or that, this worry, this anxiety, I like that, don't like that. It's like a bee. It goes from one thing to another, this way and that way. So conquering the mind means to first make it peaceful. Draw it within. This is the yogic situation. To draw the senses within, this pratyahara, is also the mind fixed through pranayama. So this quiet. It's not, you're not perceiving anything, you're just peacefully watching the mind and so forth. And then one can begin to see the Paramatma. In other words, you're getting your impetus for action, what to do, more directly from the Paramatma. The Paramatma is, Krishna as the Paramatma is always giving us intelligence, forgetfulness, remembrance. He's always telling us, go here if you want to fulfill this desire, this is what you do. Even the lower animals, the insects, he's giving them their intelligence. We say it's instinct, but it's actually the super soul, giving them their little impetus, go here, fly there, do that, eat that, go there. He's always in control. So here, if one is truly peaceful, one can begin to see the Lord within oneself. And then the result is shitoshna sukadukeshu tatamanapamaneo, is that sama. You see the word samahita, approach completely here. So then he's giving the dualities that you're equipoised in. Cold and heat, happiness, distress, honor and dishonor. Now you find that when you start listing these different characteristics of someone who's tolerant, tatiksha, the physical aspect is first mentioned always. You know, is it because it's easier to be tolerant of physical dualities than it is of personal interactions. You can have a high pain threshold. You know, you can be okay in winter and okay in summer. You know, but if someone insults you, especially someone you know or your relative, it hurts to the quick. So that's why he's saying tatamana pamanyo. And then it describes, in text 8, he goes on with the describing the qualities. A person is said to be established in self-realization is called a yogi, a mystic, when he's fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such person is situated and transcendent as self-controlled. He sees everything. Pebbles, stones, or gold is the same. So again, how you regard everything. When there's a flow of satisfaction from within, you're less involved in trying to become satisfied from without. You're able to tolerate all kinds of dualities because you're experiencing, you're beginning to experience the bliss of the ocean of happiness in your own heart. This is the miraculous. It's such a revelation. The example is given in the 10th canto. Akrura gives the example in his prayers when he's taking Krishna from Vrindavan to Mathura. This is a very kind of a critical point. The gopis, become extremely disturbed, all the residents of Vrindavan, from separation of Krishna. But they have to go because Vasudeva and Devaki are in danger, and Kamsa is, oppressing everyone. And so along the way, there's a transition point when he leaves Vrindavan, and that's the Yamuna. When he goes into the Yamuna, they reach the Yamuna. So there's this whole thing that Krishna and Balaram go in and take bath in the Yamuna, come out and sit back on the chariot. Akrura goes in, but he sees Krishna and Balaram in the river, in the lake. He said, I thought they were on the chariot. He goes back and he sees them on the chariot. There's this kind of confusion. He goes back into Yamuna, and there he sees Vishnu on Sheshanag. Sheshanag is an expansion of Balaram, and Vishnu's expansion of Krishna. So he offers these wonderful prayers. Akrura is the exemplar of for prayers. He has several sets of prayers. So these sets of prayers in chapter 40 of the 10th canto, that's where it is. Just always impressed me, and I remember he says, he identifies himself as a great souls often do, as a conditioned soul. He says, my mind is always disturbed here and there, I'm completely absorbed in material activities. And the result, he has this verse, these two verses that are pertinent to this. He says, Anityanatma dukkeshu viparhi materyaham dvandvaramas tamo vishto najane twatmanak priyam. Is that in my state of illusion, he's characterizing what someone in Maya is like. He says, that which is not me, that which is temporary, anityam, I'm taking to be permanent. That which is not me, my body and so forth, I'm taking to be me. That which is sources of unhappiness, I'm taking to be sources of pleasure. Doesn't this characterize our society today? There's this huge crisis, I was reading about it today, it's ongoing, of food, because the system we live in is always geared toward profit. So naturally, if they can make, food that's very attractive to eat, doesn't matter whether it's nutritious or not, as long as it doesn't kill you right away, not right away. And it's tasty, and we can produce it cheaply, we'll make more money, right? So that's why, they've engineered the food. They spend millions of dollars, engineered something which you can't resist. You eat one and you got to eat more, Doritos, whatever it is, All kinds of artificial flavors, right? Salt, fat, sugar. So that's you become addicted to that. It's good. I know it's going to taste good. I'm going to be happy when I eat it, right? Like a little child. But then after a while, oh God, I'm getting fat, and I'm not feeling as well as I did. 100 million adults in America, which is most of them, is like huge. 40% are diabetic or pre-diabetic. I couldn't believe that figure. And it's all because of this addictive food that they produce, and the big agribusiness is a huge industry. So how does that relate to this? So the living entity becomes entangled in the material energy, and the mind becomes the worst enemy. The mind and the senses work together, you know? And the mind will generally surrender to the senses unless the intelligence is strong and is saying, no, 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 you know, do this, do that. But the intelligence has been, you know, has not been purified, has not been exposed to it. And so the intelligence department is just, you know, figuring out how to fulfill the desires of the mind and the senses. Rather than how to fulfill the mission of the soul. You know, that's not, people don't even know they're a soul. They just identify with the mind and the body. This is the condition. So Ukrura is saying, Anityanatma Dukkeshu, Viparya Materiya, everything is upside down. Viparya means reversed. That which is temporary, this body, I'm taking to be permanent myself. Even though I know theoretically, of course, I'll die. But we live in such a way that we'll live forever. This is the most amazing thing, according to Yudhishthira. Ahanyahani buddhani gacchandi yamalayam sheshakstava namichanti kimaschaya matakparam. He says this to his father, Yamaraj. This is this whole pastime in the Mahabharata, where Yamaraj, he engineers this pastime because he wants to test the Pandavas, you know. So they're thirsty, you know, they're very thirsty in the forest. They've been wandering, they're in exile. So Yudhishthira sends out Bhishmadev to go find some water. So he finds this beautiful lake, you know, not far from there. So he's about to drink some, and he hears this disembodied voices. These disembodied voices are often very important. You know, they're always important, whatever they. So he says, you cannot drink that water. That's my lake. You have to answer these questions first. But Bhima's not about to stop. You know, he's Bhima. So he drinks the water, he falls unconscious. You know, that's the thing. So Bhima doesn't come back, so Yudhishthira is worried. So he sends out Arjuna. Same thing happens. You know, they're all thirsty. They're going to drink the water. You can't drink the water. Who is this? I can drink the water. They fall over. So then he sends out Sahadev and Nakula, the two twins. Same thing happens. So now what? So he goes himself and he sees his brothers lying there unconscious. And there's this water, you know, the thirst. And he hears the disembodied voice. So he doesn't drink the water because he's Dharma personified. You know, if it's not his water, he's not going to drink it. So he doesn't know it's his own father. He's actually the son of Yamaraj by Kunti. She called these different gods, you know. So he answers all these questions. They're fascinating questions, but the most famous one is that what's the most amazing thing in the world? You know, we have these 10 wonders of the world. No. The most amazing thing is this verse I just quoted, which means that day after day, ahanya means day after day, millions of souls in human bodies are being dying and being taken off to Yamaraj. But those who are left and see their friends and relatives dying, they feel and act as if they're going to live forever. In other words, they don't think, well, what can I do to try to mitigate the sin so I won't, you know what I mean? Most people, they just say, well, that's them. That person died. Even when you get older. Oh, it's so bad. You're next. What are you going to do about it, you know? So that's the most amazing thing, is that people don't take seriously the actual reality of birth, old age, disease, and death. And that's because of the illusion cast by this mood of enjoyment, of sense gratification. That's why Krishna has this famous verse in the 2nd chapter. All devotees who begin reading Bhagavad Gita to come to this verse and say, yeah, this is serious. Bhogai shraya pasaktanam taya purita chetasam vivasayatmaka buddhi ekeha samadho navadhiyate. You knew that one, right? So, first he's describing what it takes. This one-pointed determination. You have to have determination because there are so many factors against us, most of which are internal. We're so conditioned to kick back, to try to enjoy. But Krishna consciousness means no, to restrain the senses, control the mind, conquer over the mind. That's what this is all about. So here he's saying that you won't get that vyavasayatmaka buddhi. It's all about the intelligence. That one point of determination to succeed in spiritual life. If bhogaishraya prasak, you're too much attached. Remember I told you about pra as a prefix. So asakta means to be attached, but prasaktana means very attached. to Bhoga Aishwarya means enjoyment and opulence. Bhoga means enjoyment, Aishwarya means money to get, to enjoy. And Tayapadita Chetasma, if you're bewildered by such things, then the determination to practice Krishna consciousness doesn't take place. So that's what all of this association is about in the books and the discipline and the ashram and the things. Because we're going against the grain. We're so conditioned, you know. This is why there's not 1,000 people here. There's only 4 people. And maybe a couple on the internet. I don't want to insult you, hopefully. But you know, because it's not sense gratification. It's something to go higher and achieve higher. So this is what Akrura is praying. He's saying it's all upside down. It's reversed. Instead of understanding these things, I become a slave to my senses, and I'm completely confused. And the worst tragedy of all, he's praying to Krishna after all, is that I've completely forgot you. And I completely forgot that you're my dearest friend and master eternally. So I'm trying to enjoy the dualities of this world. Dvandva arama. Arama means to enjoy. Dvandva means the dualities of this world. Tamo vishta, and entering more and more into darkness. The more that you try to please the senses, the more illusion you get into, and the more pain, suffering there is. This is a fact. It's right there in the 5th chapter. We read it in the last chapter. Yahisang boga, there's the word boga again. Yahisang boga dukkha yona evate. That contact of the senses and the sense objects for pleasure is the source of your misery. So that, try to chew on that one for it. We don't want to think like that, so we knock it out. So here's Akrura, and he gives an analogy. Yatabado jalam hitva parichannam chadudbhavai. Parichannam udbhavai. I forget the Sanskrit. But he's saying, I'm just like a fool, sometimes compared to a foolish animal. We're kind of in a desert here, although we don't realize it. Without all this aqueducts and stuff bringing the water down from north, it's a very dry area. When you go a little east, you'll see the desert for sure. So if you're imagine a desert, the classic desert with a big oasis. You're standing on the edge of the oasis, and you're very thirsty. You're looking out into the desert, and there's a mirage there. A nice lake. What you don't know is that right by your feet is a nice pond of drinkable water, but it's been overgrown with leaves and foliage, and you can't see it. So the foolish animal, the foolish human being, runs out to the mirage in the desert, but when he gets there, there's no water. And you die or you suffer more. So what is that foliage? That foliage in the water, is hiding the water, which is Krishna, is the material energy. The material energy itself is Krishna's energy. But because we want to forget Krishna, on us, instead of reminding us of Krishna, it hides Krishna from us. And we think that we're the masters and controllers and enjoyers of this material energy. But we're not. We're actually the slaves of the allurements of Maya. We think we're independent, but we're prisoners. So this is what Akrura is saying. And then his solution is, he has this verse of lament. I wish I could remember the Sanskrit. He says, now I know this, right? But I still don't have enough strength to control my mind. My mind is out of control. My senses are out of control. What to do? He says, the only solution is to throw myself at your lotus feet and beg for mercy, that you'll help me control my senses. This is the reality of bhakti in Kali Yuga. Is that we don't have a chance to, or we're not qualified to practice anything like what he's describing here in the 6th chapter. This is a chapter that's all about, will, incredible will of a yogi. There's a few who can practice this. Prabhupada tells the story, the famous story about the Kumbh Mela. Kumbh Mela really figures in the history of ISKCON in the 70s. First of all, Prabhupada lived in Allahabad for 13 years as a householder, before he, started preaching and traveling around India and America. So Allahabad, or Prayag, is where the big Kumbh Mela takes place every 12 years. And so he said he saw two of those. And, it's amazing. I mean, millions and millions of people gather at the confluence of these 3 rivers. One of them is kind of subtle, the Saraswati River. The other is the Yamuna and the Ganges, very holy rivers. And it's said astrologically that if you bathe in the confluence at a certain time, and it's always early January, it's freezing cold, it's northern India, you'll get liberation. And so millions and millions of people come to, get the liberation. Others come just to, tourists or whatever, It's just huge. Millions. 30 million. And it's getting bigger. I heard it was like 60 million last year. And so, how did I get into that? So Prabhupada came. He took the devotees there. So, right. So these yogis, they come out of the Himalayas. It's not too far. There's a certain called the Naga Babas. Naga means no clothes. They're naked. Some of them are 200-300 years old. They look like they're 50 or 40 because they're practicing this yoga. The pranayama slowing down, and they tap into these subtle energies that can make you do that. It's a reality. But even though they're incredibly powerful, they've got this Shakti. They're not bhaktas, generally speaking. And so you hear, I don't know, I forget where I read this. National Geographic did a whole thing on this one time. They went to, on the cover was this young girl who had tattoos of Ram's name on her, all over her face. This is like, yeah, that can be done. Anyway, so these Nagababas, they come from different parts of the Himalayas. There's different groups of them. And they were having like a rumble. Who's going to go in and bathe first? And then all the army was there, to keep peace and like that. What is that? So because it's a prestige thing, and they'll get, at the precise time, they'll get more likely to get liberation. So the devotees go not to get liberation, because devotional service includes liberation as a byproduct. Prabhupada would always love this verse from the Krishna Karnamrita. How's it go? This what happens. I told you. Is it Kadashi? There's not as much glucose up there, and the brain doesn't work as quickly. Forgive me. I've been fasting all day. I had a little water. Bhakti stvahi. Think of it. Bhakti stvahi stadada bhagavan yadisyad. Taive nanak padati divnikishora murti. Mukti swayam mukulitanjali. Sevatesman dharmartha kamagata yaksamaya patisha. All right. There's glucose floating around. So what does he say? This is near the end of the Krishna Karnamrita. So this great devotee, Bilvamangal Thakur, he's saying, my dear Lord, and he was physically blind, but he could see Krishna clearly in his spiritual vision. My dear Krishna, bhaktis tvayi, that bhakti is, if bhakti is unto you is very steady, stiditara, Bhagavan, or Supreme Personality of Godhead, yadi, if, yadi syad, then that produces the fruit of the bhakti, which is Daive nanak palati divya. Palati means the fruit. Palati divya kushora murti. A vision of your beautiful divine adolescent form. In other words, this idyllic young form that we see of Krishna with the threefold and everything, the beautiful peacock plume and the color and everything. Divya kushora. And as far as Mukti is concerned, Mukti herself, personified, is waiting at the door with this Anjali mudra. The mudras are really important, Just like sometimes if people who come to the temple for the first time or they don't know anything, they're standing in front of the deities like this, That's a mudra, That means, yeah, what do you got to show me? I'm not letting you in, you know what I mean? This is a mudra also. And this is a mudra. Now the praying in the Western church, generally you see like this, right? This is not Anjali. This is, the fingers are all pointing to you, and there's nothing in there, you see? Anjali means you're making an offering. There's an offering in here. And we have Pushpanjali, the offering of flowers that we had for Prabhupada. You make the offering of flowers like that. So it's a different mood. The mood is a different mood. Forgive the play on words, I didn't mean that. But that's what it is. So Mukti herself is at the door, basically saying, how can I serve you? In other words, you don't have to work for Mukti. That's a byproduct of Bhakti. Because what is Mukti? Mukti means freedom. It means liberation. From what? From attachment. From attachment to this world. It's those attachments that all reside in the mind, and which take over the mind, so it's uncontrolled, it's your worst enemy, that bring you back life after life. To experience old age, disease, and death. Old age, disease, and death. Old age, and death. It's so traumatic that we get the blessing of forgetting. If we remembered all the births and deaths we had, we couldn't live for a minute. We'd have massive PTSD. So you forget, okay, now you can take birth again as a human being or something else and go on with your life. But it's a tragedy for the living entity who's more brilliant than the sun, who's a servant of Krishna, who has a spiritual body. So mukti's there, and then he says as far as dharma, artha, and kama, because you have these four basic purusharthas, goals of human life in Vedic culture. And the first one is dharma. Without dharma, you're just an animal. Okay? So even if you want to enjoy, do it within the Vedic paradigm. You'll enjoy much more. It's called the karma kanda. You know, you'll perform sacrifice in this life, and then you go to heaven. And you can live much longer and with a much stronger body, enjoy all kinds of things, you know, idyllic. It's still stupid, because you have to come back down here eventually. But at least you're within the Vedic paradigm. And if you're within that, then maybe you'll get the Bhagavad Gita, and you'll start reading that. So that's dharma. So if you're really dharmic, then you can get artha. In this case, artha means Prabhupada's phrase, economic development. You'll prosper in this world, in a ethical way, you know. And then what can you do with that? Kama. You can enjoy all kinds of sense gratification. You see? But someone who's intelligent knows, well, that's not very intelligent, as sinless as it may be, you know, or good mode of goodness. Still, it means I have to come back and suffer birth, old age, disease, and death. Even if you go to heaven, you got to come back. Heaven is not Goloka. So the intelligent person says, tries for mukti. Okay. So this is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Moksha, mukti is the same thing. But moksha without bhakti is impossible. Because it's liberation from something. You know, liberation from pain and suffering. Oh, now I'm completely free. Now, in the material world, that liberation is often your main motivation. Someone's coming at you with a big knife or a gun, and your main motivation is to get away and survive. And if you did that, I'm successful. Now you can relax and start enjoying, you know. But you know, just saving yourself, isn't it? But that's not really the ultimate goal of life. That's just bringing you to the point of not perishing. So just to attain mukti without bhakti, that's the impersonal ideal. That means we're going to merge into Brahman, and no body, no senses, no nothing, no pain, no birth, no death, you know. But it's unnatural for the soul, because we are persons. We have our transcendental senses, we have our transcendental activities, and it's all being suppressed in the name of no. Any form, any body, any use of the senses, that's Maya, and that'll bring you back to the birth and death. So the impersonalists, their fatal flaw, they don't understand that there's spiritual activity, spiritual senses, spiritual bliss. They throw out the baby with the bathwater. Because their motivation is basically fear. That can't be a source of bliss. Fear of another birth. Okay, I won't use my senses, I'll control the mind and senses and merge into the Brahman, you know. But they always fall down. So, Akura, so our advantage here in Kali Yuga is that we're so desperate. We're like Akura. We know, you know, that our mind and senses are too strong. I don't know what. But we have the advantage of being in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we can call out with great desperation. That's really the key. How you chant, how you address the Lord. Is it just some ritual that you go to every Sunday, you know? It can be the Sunday feast, can be also like ritualistic if you make it like that, you know? Or is it that you understand your actual position and you understand who Krishna is and you call out from the bottom of your heart? This is what Kunti says in her prayers. This famous verse which we've rescued, the translation of which we rescued. Prabhupada's original translation was obscured in the books we've had for the last 47 years. This is my main job, is to revive what's really there. So the verse goes like this: Janmai shoya shuddha shiba edamana madakpamanaiva hatyapidatam dvai trama kinchana gochara. So a kinchana gochara is one of these important phrases. It means, my dear Lord, you are the property of the propertyless. Now, a kinchana means you don't claim property. You can be a wealthy person, just like Lord Chaitanya had some very wealthy disciples. I mean, like Premanidhi, was it? I forget the name now. What is it? Pundarik Vidyanidhi, thank you. And so externally he was very wealthy. He had the fancy clothes and everything, And Gadadhar, one of Lord Chaitanya's very intimates, we sing his name with the Panchatattva. He says, I was recommended that he's so advanced. He's got these perfumes, he's got these servants fanning him, he's got these silk clothes. What is this? Because basically it's not obvious renunciation. So I think one of the Ghoshas was there, Madhava Ghosha, somebody. He sang a song, or he sang a couple of verses that just sent this Pundari Vidyanidhi into ecstasy. He probably almost ripped off his clothes, fell down. For hours he was like, crying and hyperventilating and showing his advancement. In other words, it was just an external thing. He didn't care about all of this opulence. So, therefore, Gadadhar, to get his forgiveness, he took initiation from him. He said, "Oh, these are actually my guru." So the key is the detachment, and that's mentioned, I think, in this second purport we read. Yeah, this is perfect. What is real vairagya? Because Lord Chaitanya came to teach this bhakti characterized by knowledge and detachment, vidya and vairagya vidya. So this is in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is our basic book of how-to for Krishna consciousness. He gives these two verses that describe what real vairagya is and what false vairagya is, what strong vairagya is and what weak vairagya is. So the first one is anasaktasya vishayanyataham upayunjata. So anasakta means without attachment, the object of the senses. And they're dangers for us because they can attract our mind, right? But you use them as appropriate, yataham upayunjata, in the service of Krishna, Krishna Sambandha. You unite them with Krishna. Just like all these foodstuffs. Foodstuffs is the raw material, bag of rice, that's food stuff. It's made into dishes and preparations. So, the same food is going on to the restaurant and people are paying for it for sense gratification. But they take the rice here and you prepare it for Krishna's pleasure with that consciousness, and it becomes prasadam. It's transcendental. So that's what it means, yataham upayunjata. And you're not bound up, nirbandha, you're not bound up, you can see. But you're bound up to Krishna Sambandhe, you see? This is actual vairagya, yukta vairagya. Means detachment in yoga. You're not just, it's not tyag. Tyag means to give it up. There's a nice bag of rice, it's maya, it's an enjoyable thing, I can't do that, No, it's a nice bag of rice or some money, comes your way, okay, we can use it in Krishna's service. Then it becomes an agent of your transcendence rather than an agent of your decadence. So that's the definition of yukta vairagya. On the other hand, you have the impersonalist, prapanchikatayabudya, means having a mentality that everything is material. Even the deity, the holy name, the prasadam, it's just food, it's an ordinary statue. It's hellish mentality. Hari sambandhi vastuna, even those things, vastus, that are related to Hari, you think are material. Because you don't understand the science of transcendence. Mumuksha be one, here's this word moksha, moksha is simply desiring liberation, not desiring bhakti. It's desiring freedom from pain. Padityago, give up everything. Here's, all around. As much as you can, give it up. Walk naked, and go off to the Himalayas and stand in the cold water. Padityago. But this vairagya is polgu. It's weak. Because it doesn't really change the heart. And that's why we have the example of Vishwamitra Muni and Durvasa, who were supposedly big renunciants. Durvasa was always getting angry. Because although he was a renunciant, he was austere, established yogi, he was very proud. And he never felt he was getting enough honor. And so he became angry at those who were dishonoring him, or he was envious of Ambarish, so he tried to kill him, but he himself was attacked and, eventually he had to surrender. So he's a great yogi, but the vairagya was weak, because getting angry is definitely not part of vairagya. So that's what this is all about. So how to conquer the mind and become equipoised amongst all of the allurements and dangers of this world. That's the process of Krishna consciousness. And basically it means this idea of throwing ourselves at Krishna's lotus feet and please accept me. Lord Chaitanya is teaching us. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam mado kripayata papada pankajastita duri sadasham vachindi. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death. O Lord, O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace, consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. So in other words, we're recognizing our helplessness, but still we're pleading to Krishna to bless us with the strength to practice bhakti, to stay at your lotus feet. And that's the mood to chant the holy name. And as Kunti says, if you're too enamored of wealth and aristocratic birth and your beauty and your wonderful education, then you can't chant the name with deep feeling, because you have all these other shelters that you're taking and thinking that are power. So that's why the emphasis is always on simple living. Do the minimum, don't exaggerate, and chant from the bottom of your heart. Recognize how helpless we are. And that's the advantage. The last should be first, first should be last. That's the last, being in Kali Yuga and being exposed to Lord Chaitanya's movement, it's the greatest good fortune. Because it doesn't take much to see how helpless we are in this world, how much danger is in. And so therefore, it says, okay, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. And Rupa Goswami says, Krishna, I mentioned how the mind is like a bee. Krishna bhavandam vande, is the song, part of the song. Oh Krishna, dearest Lord, I bow to you and then entreat, please place the bee in my restless mind in the honey of your lotus feet. So the song is like that. It said, look, Brahma can't even achieve vision of your lotus feet. He's meditating for millions of years. Who am I? But I've heard of how compassionate you are. So that's the vision that I'm asking for. So this is the mood of the real Vaishnava. Okay, I'm sorry I didn't leave any time for discussion. But I'd like to read, we'll start with text 11 tomorrow? Okay, yeah, he starts describing the process. So I brought my book along, Vyasa Bhuja book. And we'll spend a few days at this time reading one or two of these offerings. So I'd like to read this. This is a nice one. Bhakti Sundar Maharaj, he was just here. He likes to tell stories, so he told this story in this offering. Dear Srila Prabhupada, the first time I dreamt of you was in 1979. I saw myself in an abandoned house, and the atmosphere was ghastly. I was trying unsuccessfully to find my way out. I passed in front of a mirror but couldn't see my reflection. I panicked. Oh, maybe I became a ghost. Then suddenly you appeared, grabbed my hand, took me out of the house to the temple, and told the devotees, I rescued him from the impersonalists. Now please take nice care of him. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for rescuing me then and now. Every day I feel your loving presence. Thank you for giving me a transcendental engagement in devotional service, for teaching me how to live and how to die. How to die, to live. Madhavananda. So this is a little snippet from his conversation. Then they would say that we must also die. Everyone must die. Prabhupada, yes, we die, to live forever. Chaktva deham punarjanmanaiti. We die for that. This is the last death. This is the last death. This reminds me of the following story. He's always ready with the story. Kumar, a Hindu merchant, went to Africa for a job. When he finished his business, he took a walk in a park, stopping in front of a tree full of parrots. I'll grab one and take him to my home in India, he told himself. Then he captured one. When he returned home, he put the parrot in a big cage and began to feed him fruits, nuts, and honey. Daily, Kumar taught the parrot new words, and gradually the parrot learned to talk. After a year, Kumar said to his parrot, I'm going back to Africa. Would you like me to give your friends a message? Yes, replied the parrot. Tell them that I miss them so much, but I'm happy in this cage, well fed and cared for. Then the parrot said goodbye to Kumar and wished him a good trip. One afternoon, having finished his work, Kumar went to visit the parrots, and after giving them the message of their friend, suddenly one of them fell down dead. Poor parrot, how is it possible? Why did he die suddenly? just after listening to his friend's message. Maybe they were very good friends, and realizing that he would never see him again, he had a heart attack. After burying the parrot, Kumar returned to India. When he got home, Kumar, armed with courage, told his parrot, "I'm sorry to tell you that after I gave your message to your friends, one of them fell dead instantly." When the parrot heard this bad news, he collapsed, dying in his cage. Kumara could not believe it. "I loved him so much. How could he die on me like that? He has died in such a strange way and so suddenly. I cannot find an explanation." Crying disconsolately over the death of his beloved parrot, Kumar took the dead body out of the cage and went to his garden, and after depositing it with great care on the grass, he turned around to pick up a shovel and dig his grave. After Kumar had walked a few steps, the parrot flew away and landed on a tree. Kumar, filled with astonishment and fury, shouted, "You were not dead! You cheated me! Why did you do that?" While massaging his back with his wing, because he had injured himself a little bit, the parrot replied, "Well, I did it because my friend from Africa sent me a very important message." "A message? What message?" asked Kumar, without understanding anything. "The message was that I had to die to live," said the parrot. "My friend indicated to me that I should fake my death to live in freedom." In the same way, Srila Prabhupada, you taught me how to get out of the bondage of material existence. The cage represents the body, and the parrot symbolizes the soul, and the parrot who sent the message is the spiritual master. No matter how beautiful the cage and how nice the food, no bird can be happy in a cage. In the same way, we can never be happy in a material body. We are spiritual souls, and we need to be free from the captivity of the cage-like body. Dying to live means dying to ignorance and living for eternal loving service to Krishna. Your eternally grateful servant, Bhakti Sundar Goswami. Interesting, huh? Okay, and now it's time to adjourn and have kirtan. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol.